What limits?
It's pretty damn good. So lockdown has been extended. Let's masturbate. And I watched The Birth of the Dragon, a story about Bruce Lee fighting Wong Jack Man, a Shaolin master. I watched it again now just to review it. Yeah, it's actually really good. Despite the fact that there might be some flaws with how the characterization is made, particularly with Bruce Lee. They seem to have gone for a Bruce Lee that seems to be more irreverent, kind of a douchebag. And I think that they're specifically made for the fact that they want this character to develop. So let's jump into Birth of the Dragon, breaking down some of the plots without spoiling the whole story. And just letting you guys know what my thoughts are on the movie. So the movie begins with a short summary of the story that takes place. Wong Jack Man challenged Bruce Lee to a fight back in the 1960s. We don't know who won actually at the end of the story, and despite the fact that the movie says that it's been inspired, like the word inspired in this story is actually it's like a big word because they stray very far from reality. We're introduced to Shaolin Grandmaster Wong Jack Man, who played by Xiao Yu, who is meant to display the Shaolin style against the Tai Chi school in Hainan province, which is dubbed as the birthplace of Kung Fu by the film. He actually gets his ass beaten, like he gets his ass handed to him, and because of this he gets quite pissed off and he lands one powerful fucking kick. And this actually affects his story throughout the rest of the movie. Next, we're introduced to Bruce Lee, who's played by Philip Wang Lung. 9 years before his big break in Enter the Dragon. Enter the Dragon was actually the American movie, the American martial arts movie that made Kung Fu quite big in America. Philip Lang, on the other hand, he actually trained in Wing Chun and Taekwondo, and he has a master's degree in education. It's almost like he was fucking born to play the martial arts teacher version of Bruce Lee. Like he practically spent his whole life just practicing for this role. We see how he interacts with these students, slapping them like little bitches, which is actually a reference to one of the movies, to Enter the Dragon itself, where we see him interact with the student on screen.
That's it. How did it feel to you?
Let me think.
Don't think.
I fucking love to smack my students around like little bitches like this, though I'd probably get into trouble. Whereas, you know, with martial arts, you can get away with it. We see that Lee is in the midst of one of his earliest film projects in America, or he actually lives in San Francisco where the movie takes place. Once again, we see that he's actually quite an egomaniacal diva, and he fucking treats his students like shit because they're actually the ones whose ass he's kicking on screen, and he just fucking beats them. And despite the fact that he actually gets one student right in the nuts, he says, I mean, it's your fault, you gotta jump back when I kick you in the nuts. Finally, we see the actual protagonist of the story, Steve McKee, played by Billy Magnuson, who is actually based on the real-life Steve McQueen, an actor and student of Lee's in the late 60s. He asks Lee how he's doing, and Lee makes a special effort to take him for a push before Steve serves his own hidden anger. This would actually be very interesting if we added it to the character, but because it seems like there was complaints about the movie being whitewashed and that it focused on the protagonist, Steve McKee, it seems like scenes of McKee's character building seems to have been removed. This anger that we see in him actually goes nowhere and it makes it an unnecessary scene in the movie, unless we're just there to see Bruce Lee being an asshole again. Finally, we get into some real action when we see one of Lee's students, Winnie Wei. He's attacked by the Chenggu Tan Triad, the obvious antagonistic force of the film. Lee, however, promptly puts his foot right up their asses, reminding them to stay on their side of town. This is actually one of the first actual fighting scenes that we see in the film, and it looks really freaking good. It's very well shot. I quite enjoyed this one. Steve McKee's relevance to the story is brought into the forefront when Vinny actually tells him that Wong Jack Man is leaving the Shaolin Temple to check out Kung Fu in America, and he's actually coming to San Francisco. On the delivery of Steve McKee, we actually are introduced to his love interest, the B-new girl named Quan Jiulong, played by Jing Jing Q. I really hope that I'm saying that name right. Jing Jing Q. Okay, who has an interest in teaching other human trafficking victims like herself. She's a human trafficking victim, unfortunately, how to speak English. We see that comes up later in the story, but I'm not going to focus on that for this review. Steve eventually meets Wong, not only shaking his hand like he planned to, but also giving him a lift to his job and asking him for a lesson, which is actually a great insult to his master Lee. One student cannot have two masters. Lee makes this clear later in the film, but Steve still, he asks Wong Jack Man for a lesson. I mean, if it was me, I'd probably ask him for a lesson too. Apparently, Wong Jack Man was quite famous even in this time. Lee, upon hearing about Wong's arrival in San Francisco, immediately assumes that Wong is there to spy on him. As when Lee was young, a student of Yip Man, when he was learning Wing Chun, The Shaolin actually forced Yip Man to stop teaching Lee. He doesn't explain why this was, and it's most likely because of Lee's aggression from when he was a kid. Now, many of you might not know this, but Bruce Lee actually only got into martial arts because he used to get into a lot of fights. And the last fight that he had that actually forced him to come to America was a fight with a triad's child. That's at least what I hear. I might be wrong because the movie tells the same story, but you know, my research might have been fucked up on this one. So Lee actually believes that Wong is there to stop him from teaching White's Kung Fu. Wong does not dispel this illusion later when Steve confronts him about it. Wong does, however, make clear that his reason for being in America was his dishonor in the fight I was displayed in the beginning of the film, where he used a lethal attack in a demonstration where full contact was not allowed. In an attempt to cleanse his soul, as he claims, he came to America to wash dishes. It's all, you know, Shaolin philosophical. I don't know how it works. Cleaning dishes is his way of cleaning his soul from the damage that his pride has done. Because now his opponent cannot do martial arts anymore. And he actually respected this opponent. And so he feels quite bad about using such a deadly attack. Lee, in his fear of Wong ruining all that he built up, invites Wong to a demonstration where he not only makes his opponent look like a complete fucking chump, it's an American karate master, he also displays for the first time his 1-inch punch, literally an attack that propels the opponent from a range as close as 1 inch. That may or may not also be the name that I gave my penis. You can make of that what you want to. Wong accepts the invitation, and despite coming to America to atone for his pride, he goads Sifu Lee by insulting his style and claiming that its only limitation is Lee himself. Lee challenges Wong because of this. Wong initially refuses, but eventually the stakes are raised and the fight can no longer be refused. Now this leads us to the end of the film where we see Lee and Wong fight. That is the main focus of the film. Despite that, however, the triad does surround this fight and they make it more interesting. Steve McKee's role in this is actually the bringing of Wong and Bruce Lee together to make them fight. So that's his only role, but he is still considered the protagonist of the film. Some of my positives. The fighting choreography is actually really cool. I quite enjoyed it, particularly the fight with Wong, Jackman and Bruce Lee, but I mean, they couldn't have made that fucking look shit. I mean, that would just be fucking stupid, right? Despite a really flawed version of Bruce Lee, Philip Wan-Long still does a very convincing portrayal, getting right some of Bruce Lee's movements and the nuances in his kung fu and fighting demeanor. Also, Wong Jackman, although clearly a stereotype of the wise Shaolin master, is an interesting character and he's brought to life very well by Jia Yu. I hope I say that name right, Jia Yu. I'm sorry if these names are, I'm pronouncing your names wrong, guys. I'm trying not to be offensive. Now, my negatives on the other hand, all the other characters other than Lee and Wong are not as interesting. Steve McKee's only relevance to the plot is that he's meeting Wong, resulting in an eventual fight between the two masters. He's not a particularly interesting character, and what could have been any development on his side apart from his romance with Zhe Lan has been removed or was never there because of the editing. Supposedly, this whitewashing complaints that people had when they initially saw the film caused the director to do some reshoots and I think some re-edits. I'm not sure about the reshoots, but definitely re-edits so that they could make Steve McKee less of the focal point of the film. Because of this, I actually think that a lot of the character development that could have been there for Steve McKee has been removed. That's disappointing, but unfortunately people wanted them to focus more on Bruce Lee. He's not a particularly good fighter though, and at the climax of the film, he still only really serves as a catalyst rather than playing any important role of his own, despite the story at the end really revolving around what he wants. Not to spoil too much either, but one of my biggest gripes of the film is that despite it being a very fictional retelling of the fight between Wong Jackman and Bruce Lee, the director decides at some point that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon seems to be more interesting than anything Bruce Lee has ever done in his life, and then eventually decides that now Bruce Lee and Wong Jackman can do floaty jumping sequences that just come out of completely fucking left field. Not that it ruins the movie or ruins the story, it simply just doesn't work here and it kind of feels weird. It feels like it's just completely out of fucking place. While a lot of people may have had a problem with the fact that the movie was whitewashed, I actually enjoyed the external perspective, though he's biased towards one of the characters, making them more of his favorite, seems to ruin that outsider perspective, and therefore it doesn't make sense that they chose him as the protagonist. However, I still believe that this movie is not a Bruce Lee film, despite the fact that it takes place around Bruce Lee's life and tells about the birth of the dragon, essentially his legend coming to life. This is definitely not a Bruce Lee film. This is simply Bruce Lee's story being used as inspiration for a martial artist's journey from his irreverent attitude, his arrogance and his ignorance about the limitations of his style to where he becomes now the legend. Bruce Lee is simply used as a mold for this martial arts story, but it is in no way a Bruce Lee story. That is just something I have to make very clear. So that's why I don't particularly mind the way that they used Bruce Lee's arrogance and they made him kind of an asshole. It was all for the sake of character development, and so I kind of separate this story from the actual Bruce Lee story. And so for this, I actually decided that I'm gonna give this movie 1-inch punches out of 10. 1-inch punches. Yeah, I actually quite enjoyed it, and so I'm not gonna spoil a lot of it. I'm not gonna tell you guys the whole story, what happens throughout the end. I actually feel like you guys should go watch this. If you guys enjoy martial arts movies and you don't mind Bruce Lee kind of looking like an asshole for the sake of character development and for the sake of telling an interesting story and using Bruce Lee's life as a mold for a new image or a new idea, then you guys should definitely watch this. Birth of the Dragon came out in 2016. It's not the newest film. It's not the best martial arts film that I've seen. I mean, I've still seen Fist of Fury. Fist of Fury is the shit. That was just a little bit of the spoilers. I'm sorry about that if I did spoil the film. Now, it doesn't ruin the film, and I do think that you should definitely go watch it. Hope you guys enjoyed the extended lockdown. Hope it doesn't make you guys go fucking crazy. It's another 2 weeks, but it's not the end of the world. It's just till the end of April. I think America might still get it worse than us, which would fucking suck for them. Other than that, have a very good fuck off.